Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I'm going to be talking about the fourth album from Deadmau5, for lack of a better name. A criticism I often seen thrown at big EDM albums is that they're often pointless, in that many DJs compile several of their tracks that they've already released, and shove them all onto the same release, even though their audiences have already heard all those songs. Good example of this is, say, Martin Garrix's Gold Skies EP. Totally pointless. And yes, this problem is also my biggest criticism of this album here. Deadmau5 in particular, I see this criticism thrown at a lot, though I suspect that's mainly because of his album titles and less because of the actual content. Like, I will not deny that, for lack of a better name, is an awful title and makes it sound like he only released it because he felt like he had to or something. But the same goes with Random Album Title, and that was very well thought out and put together. The point is, I don't get the feeling that the songs on this album were originally planned to fit together. Or at least, it's much more obvious here than it is on other albums of his. This could partially be in retrospect, because the big singles off this album, namely Ghosts and Stuff and Strobe, have since become so hugely well-known and iconic that the rest of the album could just as easily be written off as filler. Ghosts and Stuff was already a hugely popular single before the album was even released, so I suppose it kind of felt like the album was released in order to piggyback off that song's success. That being said, even though this album does feel like a compilation, I do also think that the filler stuff is actually pretty good as well. And there really was no possible way for Joel to have changed the track order and make it any better than it already was. That is at least one thing that this album has over Random Album Title. I don't feel like the track order on this album is completely arbitrary. For instance, Ghosts and Stuff and its remix More Ghosts and Stuff are placed near the beginning, and Strobe is placed at the end, with the least memorable tracks mostly clustered together in the middle. The continuous mix is also pretty good, although not quite as good as Random Album Title's mix. There were a few moments in which the transitions don't feel very smooth, like between FML and More Ghosts and Stuff, or between For Lack of a Better Name and 16th Hour. But again, I don't think there was a good way for Joel to have further improved the mix. Like, I have the extended mixes version in which More Ghosts and Stuff doesn't begin with the creepy voice samples, aka the hard intro version. So at least its transition from FML actually exists. But enough about the album as a whole and the continuous mix, let's talk about the individual songs. So first there's FML. This song used to fall for second track syndrome, in which I often skipped it to get right to More Ghosts and Stuff. But now I've realized this is actually a pretty dang good track, starting out the album with a bang. The song is a bouncier beat. Instead of a typical 4 on the floor beat, this would be more of a 6 on the floor beat. It starts out with these cool drum rolls, building up to a really bassy and dark drop. There's lots of acoustic drum sounds all over this track too, making it sound much more intense and hard-hitting than any of the other songs on this album. Next up, there's More Ghosts and Stuff and, well, Ghosts and Stuff, which are just as easily recognizable as they always have been. Fun beat, sampling of Chopin's Funeral March. Both really fun songs. But if I had to pick which one I like more, it would without question be More Ghosts and Stuff. It's more fun and more interesting than the original, and I think it's even catchier than the original. The one thing that the original does have over More Ghosts and Stuff, though, is that Ghosts and Stuff has Rob Swire on it. And you know, I've been a fan of Pendulum for a long time, so it's pretty cool to hear him singing on here. But aside from that, More Ghosts and Stuff, definitely the better song. After that, the album kind of takes a small break for some less interesting tracks. First there's Hi Friend, and this song's alright, and is made more interesting by MC Flipside's vocals and this cool guitar sample. But aside from that, it doesn't really have a lot to it, and he doesn't use that guitar sample very often. But makes things a little more interesting by using the Sometimes Things Get Whatever formula, in which, like, it starts with a beat with not that much melody on top, The beat cuts out, adds in a kinda cool melody, and then the melody cuts out and gets replaced by the beat again. Bot is decent, but it's kinda forgettable. The beat is kind of interesting, but the melody is not one of his better ones. Then there's Word Problems, which doesn't really even have a melody. Well, it kinda does, but it's very atonal. I suppose it's nice for a little change of pace, but not one of my favorites. Thankfully, after that, we get Soma, which also uses the same formula as Sometimes Things Get Whatever. But this song is much better than Bot, in my opinion, thanks to a more interesting beat. And in the beatless section, there's this beautiful and catchy piano melody that I absolutely love. And also in the outro of the song, he screws around with the melody, makes it like kind of chopped up and glitchy. Nice touch. I really like this song, it's very underrated. Next up is Lack of a Better Name, which I really wanted to like more than I actually do. In its beatless section, it has this cool string build-up, and this nice little high-pitched riff here and there. But I just can't get behind this song, as it's just not catchy at all. The main melody is slightly atonal and very simplistic. The chord progression on the build-up is forgettable. The beat isn't that interesting. The song is well put together, but it's just totally forgettable song in my opinion. I suppose that in part this could be due to the fact that it's in between two catchier tracks. For instance, 16th Hour. Much catchier track, much more well fleshed out. This song actually keeps the melody in the sections with the beats. It's kind of like a song off of random album title, albeit much darker sounding and more intense. This is another highly underrated track. I really like this one. But of course, the album ends with Strobe. Here we have a song that also needs no introduction, and it's a favorite from Deadmau5 fans all over for good reason. The song begins with a beautiful, slow-building synth melody, then slowly increasing in tempo until it turns into a more intense but just as catchy dance tune. And of course, placing the song at the end of the album is just perfect. Saving the best song for last. Overall though, I don't think this album was as good as Random Album Title. It has a handful of really good songs, but also has a handful of ones as well. This fluctuation in quality leaves the album feeling less cohesive, leading to it feeling more like a compilation than a proper album despite the fact that the mixing is spot on. It's not his best, but I say it's still worth checking out for those good songs. Overall, I'm feeling a 7.3 out of 10. Favorite tracks, FML, More Ghosts and Stuff, Soma, 16th Hour, and Strobe. Least favorite track, I'm gonna have to go with Lack of a Better Name. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with me, or tell me your opinion in the comments, or if you have any requests, also leave those in the comments as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.